A dramatic increase in tension in the Middle East. Iran threatens a powerful response to Israel's attack on Iranian nuclear and missile sites. Good afternoon. It's an unprecedented escalation between the two arch rivals in the Middle East, which experts warn could spiral into a wider regional conflict.
Israel says it launched the strikes to remove the threat posed by Tehran's nuclear program.
The Israeli military says its fighter jets hit sites across Iran, including one where it alleges officials from Iran's Revolutionary Guard had gathered to prepare for an attack on Israel. The attack, the most significant Iran has faced in decades, took out top Iranian military officials and damaged nuclear and missile sites.
Sirens sounded in Israel as Iran launched its initial response, sending more than 100 drones towards Israel. Israel says the drones were intercepted outside its airspace. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the attacks were meant to remove what he called the Iranian threat to his country and many others.
We will not let the world's most dangerous regime get the world's most dangerous weapons. And Iran plans to give those weapons, nuclear weapons, to its terrorist proxies. That would make the nightmare of nuclear terrorism all too real. The increasing range of Iran's ballistic missiles would bring that nuclear nightmare to the cities of Europe and eventually to America.
Israel has said for some time it was prepared to take military action to stop Iran from gaining a nuclear weapon. Just yesterday, the Board of Governors of the UN's nuclear watchdog had warned Iran was not complying with its obligations around limiting nuclear enrichment. Tehran insisted its programs were peaceful in nature.
Iran's president says Israel could expect a tough response. Demonstrators gathered in the streets of Tehran to condemn the strikes, which Israel has indicated could continue for some time. Nuclear experts say Israel is believed to have its own nuclear weapons, but has never confirmed nor denied their existence. And for more on this, I'm joined by CTV's Jeremy Sharon. Jeremy, what is the latest on the attacks in the Middle East?
Yeah, well, Nathan, this is, a cause for concern across the Middle East. This is what many have long feared, direct engagement between Israel and Iran, two military superpowers in the Middle East. As you've touched on, 200 aircrafts is what Israel says was involved in going after 100 targets, specifically nuclear targets and ballistic missile targets. 3 Iranian military officials were taken out during these attacks. The Iranian government has confirmed that. They include the head of the armed forces, the head of the paramilitary Revolutionary Guard, and the head of the ballistic missiles program. Iran immediately retaliated, firing 100 drones towards Israel. They were intercepted by Israel's Iron Dome. But we know that that is just the beginning, and everyone is watching to see what happens next, hoping for de-escalation. The fear is that this becomes a full-on engagement between Israel and Iran, which many have long feared. Iran has promised retaliation. They're calling this a declaration of war, and Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has warned of severe punishment. These are tense moments in the region, tense days and weeks ahead, as everybody waits to see what happens next, Nathan.
And Jeremy, what's been the global reaction to the attacks?
Yeah, a lot of reaction. Look, the U.S. Directly kind of involved here and reacting immediately. President Donald Trump criticizing Iran for not coming to an agreement with the U.S. U.S. officials have been trying to broker a deal with Iran over its nuclear weapons program. I believe they've gone through about 6 rounds of negotiations. And so Donald Trump has been critical of Iran here and says that they need to continue to negotiate and reach a deal over their nuclear program, or another attack will come and they will only get stronger. The U.S. has said that it had no involvement in this attack directly, but has certainly indicated that it will support in the future, further action from Israel if there is no agreement reached. Canadian officials have reacted as well. Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand posted to social media reacting to what has unfolded. She says Canada is closely following the escalation of tensions between Israel Israel and Iran. Further action risks triggering a broader regional conflict with devastating consequences. De-escalation must be the priority. We urge all parties to refrain from actions that further destabilize the region. The protection of civilians must be paramount. Canada remains deeply concerned by the threat posed by Iran's nuclear and ballistic missile program. Importantly, Canadians in the region are advised to exercise a very high degree of caution, monitoring developments closely, and follow the advice of local authorities. That's the message again from Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand. As Canada closely monitors what happens, clearly is concerned about, two things. Iran's nuclear program, which is the basis for Israel's attack here. They're concerned for that program as well, but there is obviously concern for greater escalation in the region and what that could mean.
All right, CTV's Jeremy Sharon with the latest on the conflict in the Middle East. Thank you.
Anytime.
More news in a moment, but first we turn our attention here at home and the Friday forecast as we head into another weekend in June. We've got nice sunshine out there today, but no doubt you'll notice the freshness in the air. It has cooled down some. Lindsay Morrison has an eye on the temperatures and joins us with the current conditions. Lindsay.
Well, Michelle, definitely a fresh feel out there today. We are cooler than normal. I'm going to remind you of the fact that our average temperature this time of year is about 24 degrees. We're at 16 this hour, and we're talking teen temperatures really right across the board, only 12 in Burlington at this hour. So part of the reason for that, we've got an east wind. You get the wind blowing across the cool waters of Lake Ontario, and that moves onshore and keeps communities below seasonal, as is the case today. Current look at the satellite and radar imagery. We've had some wet weather to the east of Georgian Bay in through the Kawarthas and now impacting the Kingston area. For us, it's some variable cloudiness today. Best case scenario, we enjoy a mix of sun and cloud. I do think we will cloud over a little bit into this evening, and 18 degrees, that's about as warm as it's going to get. But improvements are coming for the weekend. We'll take you through your Father's Day forecast coming up. For now, Nathan, I'll send it over to you.
All right, thank you, Lindsay. We have breaking news north of Toronto where OPP are investigating a serious collision. The crash happened on Highway 48 near Park Road, just outside Georgina on the south side of Lake Simcoe. The CTV News chopper is live on the scene. Now, the crash involved a tractor trailer and a passenger vehicle, and there's damage to the driver's side of the car. The highway is closed in both directions between Park Road and Ravenshoe Road. Investigators remain on the scene.
Toronto police say a man wanted in an international parental abduction investigation has now been arrested. Last month, 3-year-old Valentino returned to Canada with his mother, Camila. His father, 48-year-old Kapil Sunak, is accused of taking him to India back in July of 2024 in contravention of a court order. Police say arrangements were made for Sunak to return here as well, and he was taken into custody at Pearson Airport on Tuesday on an abduction charge.
A man has died after a crash involving an e-scooter on the Bloor Viaduct. Now, police say the 50-year-old man was riding the e-scooter around 9 p.m. on the west side of the bridge when the crash took place. The man later succumbed to his injuries. Roads reopened in the area just before midnight, and there's no word on charges related to the incident. And a cyclist was rushed to hospital in Mississauga around 9:30 last night. It happened near Credit View and Argentia. Paramedics tell CTV News the cyclist is in critical condition. Officials are investigating what led up to the crash.
Police responded to the scene of a fatal crash in Niagara Falls. This happened around 11:30 last night in the Thorold Stone and Dorchester Road area. Police say one person is dead after a car and a motorcycle collided. Collision reconstruction and forensic units are investigating what happened. And to India now, where investigators have recovered both black boxes from the wreckage of the Air India crash as grieving families demand answers. This morning, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited the site of the crash, which claimed the lives of 241 people, including a Toronto woman. At least 5 medical students in a college hospital on the ground were also killed. Modi also visited the sole survivor, a British man who says he was thrown from the plane before it exploded. The London-bound Boeing 787 crashed into a building shortly after takeoff in Ahmedabad. DNA testing is being conducted to identify the victims, along with dental records. And CTV's Kamil Karamali joins us live now. Kamil, you've been following the latest developments. What is the latest at this stage?
Michelle, at least 246 people killed, as you mentioned, 241 on the plane and 5 on the ground. But that number is expected to rise, with health officials telling CNN and other media outlets that the death toll could run as high as more than 290 people as crews still work to recover the bodies on the ground after the plane crashed. What we know is the Air India flight leaving Ahmedabad in northwest India around 1:30 local time yesterday, heading to London, England. The plane crashed 5 minutes after takeoff into some residential buildings, including a medical college and hospital, primarily hitting the dining area of this hostel for doctors, where physicians were on lunch taking a break. We've confirmed 5 people dead on the ground, but once again, that number expected to rise. We're also learning the names and stories of some of the dead who were on the plane, including the lone Canadian, Dr. Nirani Patel, a dentist from Toronto, Etobicoke more specifically, who worked at a clinic in Mississauga, 32 years old, leaving behind a husband and a 1-year-old child. She received her license to practice in Canada just about 5 years ago in 2019. There were also 169 Indian nationals, 53 Britons, and 7 Portuguese on board. 1 survivor walking away from the wreckage. An incredible story here with Viswash Kumar Ramesh, who was heading back to London. He's a British national of Indian descent. He said he was on the plane and saw lights flickering inside. Seated in 11A, he was in the emergency aisle and was able to jump out of the emergency exit. He said he woke up surrounded by flames, debris, and couldn't believe he was alive. And unfortunately, he was sitting with his brother, who died in the plane crash. Have a listen to what their cousin had to say earlier today.
It's absolutely shocking. There's no words in this grievance. Visiting to India just for a few days before, just 4 or 5 days before, and now she was coming back. And we heard this tragic thing happen as soon as we wake up.
The family friend of Nirali Patel, who lives in Etobicoke. And as you mentioned, Michelle, both black boxes have been recovered. That will be a key part of the investigation that is being led by Indian officials. The United States is also assisting, because that's where Boeing 787 Dreamliners are manufactured, and the UK sending a team down to help with the investigation, because that was the destination. We also know that the investigation will focus on a number of things, including the engine, the flaps, and the landing gear. But seeing these investigations in the past, it could be months before we get some firm answers, as once again, Michelle, the death toll expected to rise.
No doubt those families are going to want answers. CTV's Kamil Karamali in the CTV National Newsroom. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, the Los Angeles Police Department says more people were arrested in protests and clashes last night, denouncing recent immigration raids.
The Trump administration has called in the National Guard and Marines to clamp down on the unrest. And as demonstrations pop up in other cities, officials say they may take similar steps elsewhere.
The people across this country are so grateful. They are so grateful for the work that is being done here in Los Angeles. They are setting an example for what is happening across the country in other cities, and putting together a model and a blueprint for how we can continue to work to make every single community great again and safe again for our kids and for our grandkids far into the future.
Secretary Noem's news conference yesterday was interrupted by U.S. Senator Alex Padilla. The California representative was handcuffed and removed from the room. Padilla's office says he was not detained. The Department of Homeland Security claimed the Secret Service believed he was an attacker. Democratic governors, meanwhile, are expressing shock at the Trump administration's use of troops in American streets.
As we speak, an American city has been militarized over the objections of their governor. At the outset, I just want to say that this is a flagrant abuse of power and nothing short of an assault on our American values.
We also respect and expect this administration to respect the traditions and legal precedent that dictate how and when our National Guard and military are deployed.
A court hearing took place yesterday at the request of California Governor Gavin Newsom, looking to block the federal use of the National Guard and Marine troops to help with immigration raids in L.A. The initial ruling was in the governor's favor.
Today was really about a test of democracy, and today we passed the test. We, the people, passed the test.
The court ruled the National Guard should come back under state control by this afternoon. That ruling was paused after the Trump administration appealed. Federal representatives called the lawsuit a crass political stunt endangering American lives.
Back in Toronto, what's believed to be one of the largest and oldest elm trees in the city is scheduled to be cut down next week.
It comes after the city deemed the tree to be a potential hazard. CTV's Beth McDonnell is live with more on this. Beth.
Nathan, this tree is a big landmark in the Christy Pitts neighborhood. It's an American elm, or also called a white elm, and it's been standing here for more than 100 years. I'm on Barton Avenue. It's located just on the north side of Christy Pitts Park, and come Tuesday, this enormous elm is coming down. As you can see, it's the middle of June, and this tree barely has any leaves. Residents say it seemed fine last year. The city inspected it at the end of May and found it to be nearly dead and slated it for removal. As a result, neighbors have been coming by to say their goodbyes, and it's been pretty emotional. The city has also been here putting up signs. It will be closing the street next week to take it down, and that's a job that's expected to take 2 to 3 days. The city actually tested tissue for Dutch elm disease and elm's yellow diseases, but the results were inconclusive. The city says it last treated the tree to protect it from Dutch elm disease in 2023.
I love this tree. I've been watching it from Christy Pitts Park for years, and it has a huge canopy. It's bigger than so many of the rest of these trees.
I'm very upset. I've lived in the neighborhood for 25 years, and our family even has a name for this tree, Eddie the Elm. And I just found out today, and I'm very upset. It brings me to tears because a tree like this doesn't, come along every day, and I'll never see a tree like this again in my neighborhood in my lifetime.
A neighbor, a couple neighbors found out about this tree. They live here and they saw it dying, so they reached out to UT Forestry. And they said, can you come have a look at it? So we came up here and with the tree team and had a look at it.
And so when was that, and what did you find?
That was last week, and as you can tell, as soon as you drive up here, you can see it's not leafing out. Everything is leafed out. You can see a few remnant branches up there and some seeds, so it's clearly on the way out. And but with the seeds and cuttings, we can collect them and grow them.
So that last clip there was with forestry faculty member at U of T, Eric Davies, and he will actually be here next week when the city is taking that tree down. They hope to collect seeds from this enormous elm in the hopes that the tree can live on. The city says that the tree is coming down because it could become a hazard as branches are prone to breaking. It also says that taking it down will help prevent the spread of other diseases. Reporting live, I'm Beth McDonnell. Michelle and Nathan, back to you.
All right. Thank you, Beth. Longtime Toronto Maple Leaf announcer Joe Bowen says he'll retire after the next NHL season. Bowen will leave big shoes to fill after calling Leaf games for more than 4 decades. He says he feels totally blessed to have been able to do his dream job for so long. He thanked Leaf Nation, whom he calls the most loyal and demonstrative fans. Bowen also says he hopes the Leafs will finally hoist the Stanley Cup once again before he officially retires.
Well, the Stanley Cup final is all tied up after a Game 4 comeback last night from the Edmonton Oilers.
Puck pulls in, cross-ice pass. Draisaitl towards the net, score!
Leon Draisaitl does it again, scoring in overtime for the 4th time in this year's playoffs. The Oilers beat the Panthers 5-4, bouncing back from a 3-goal first-period deficit. The Oilers actually took the lead before the Panthers tied it up with a last-minute goal, forcing that overtime.
From the ice to the football field, the Toronto Argonauts are preparing for their home opener tomorrow. CTV's Jessica Smith is live at Lamport Stadium with a preview, another sign that summer is here. The Argos are back in town.
Listen, it is absolutely football season, but before we get into the 2025 season, we got to talk about 2024 and the Grey Cup Championship win. I'm joined by Wynton McManus, linebacker, veteran of the league. You did great business last year, more great business on the way this year, but talk to me about your reaction to getting those rings, because I saw the videos on social media and it felt like there's Christmas and then there's getting the ring.
Oh my goodness, the rings are amazing. Just the amount of detail and things that we put into it. You know, everybody coming together, knowing what hard work it took, but man, the diamonds, they shine. You know, everybody loves diamonds. They're a man's best friend, too. So, you know, it's just beautiful. It's pretty heavy on your finger, but, you know, wouldn't want it any other way.
And I know that it's kind of got a couple different segments to it. It opens up. There's movement to it. How cool and unique is that?
Very unique. You know, from what I've heard, what I've been told, we're the first team to do it in the CFL, to have the removable tops on the ring. Setting trends, but, you know, also just trying to stay ahead of the game, you know, kind of the way we want to play the season and, you know, continue to progress this team and go along this year.
Now, the fans, the first 10,000 fans are getting these replica rings, so they're almost the same. We're going to put them side by side here. It's pretty exciting. How cool is that, you know, the fans can take a little piece of 2024 with them, because they were right alongside with you guys. They were riding along that whole season. How cool is it that they get to take something like this home?
Football is family. Argos Nation is family. You know, we're all in this together. You know, when we win, we feel like we win together. When we lose, you know, you guys hurt the same way we hurt. So, you know, it's only right that y'all get a chance to have a piece of, you know, the Grey Cup ring and, you know, enjoy it and celebrate it like we did.
Everyone's excited for tomorrow. I know you're excited for tomorrow. Outside of football, what is your favorite part of game day? Because I know you see the fans out there, everyone's getting ready, there's the music in the locker room, I see you guys getting all excited. What's your favorite part of game day outside of all the action that happens on the field?
It has nothing to do with on the field, but I think for me, the process of preparing for game day is the best part about game day. Everything leading up to the game, I get a chance to relax my mind, get hype. You know, you're seeing people kind of lock in, and I enjoy just watching people's processes. You know, I kind of study people a lot, so I enjoy just watching people lock in and do what they do best, and it kind of helps me settle in, and I love that part about it, honestly.
Now they're raising the championship banner before the game tomorrow. How is that going to feel? Are you looking forward to it? Because there's just another one added to the list.
19 is going up tomorrow. That's a lot of banners. You know, I don't know where we're going to make room to put it. We got to find some. I don't want to say we're going to take some down, but we got to find some room somewhere.
What do you need from the fans? Obviously, they are a big part of game day. What do you need from them coming out tomorrow to help you guys bring home a W?
We need positive vibes, great energy, and hoarse voices. We need the whole stadium rocking. We need y'all loud, excited, because we're going to be out full speed, and, you know, we're prepared and we're ready to go. So you're going to get our all, and we need you guys' all as well.
Kickoff is tomorrow at 4 p.m. Wynton, thank you so much. Good luck. Do some more great business, and we'll send things back inside.
Oh, yeah. Get us another ring this year. Thanks. Meanwhile, the countdown to the FIFA World Cup is officially on. That is the countdown clock officially unveiled at Nathan Phillips Square last night. The first match in Toronto is now less than 1 year away. BMO Field, which will temporarily be renamed Toronto Stadium for the tournament, is set to host 6 World Cup matches.
Oh yeah, it's very exciting. It's wonderful. Thank you, Canada, for hosting this special event. I'm very happy. Thank you, Canada. Woo!
Oh, very exciting, especially because both teams are in Ecuador and Canada. So,
Ecuador, Canada, Ecuador, Canada, Ecuador, Canada, Ecuador, Canada.
Love that. The 2026 World Cup will have matches in Canada as well as the United States and Mexico. It'll be here before we know it, Lindsay.
It sure will be. And you know what else? It's that time of year. It is festival season. There is so much going on in the city this weekend, be it food or music festivals. And as Jessica mentioned, the Argos have their home opener tomorrow. Here's a look at what you can expect condition-wise at BMO Field. It's going to be a great day. Clouds clear in the morning. We'll have sunshine in the afternoon. Just might be a little cool by the water at times. And then your Father's Day forecast. I don't think we're going to have any trouble with tea times. Widespread sunshine and temperatures improving. morning. Yes, it is a little bit chilly today, but some heat and humidity returns in the 7-day forecast. We'll take you through it on the other side of this break here on CTV News at noon.
As several provinces face growing wildfire emergencies, the federal government says is bracing for an elevated risk in western and northern Canada as the season continues.
While increased rainfall in the latter half of June could reduce the risk of new fires igniting, high fire risk conditions are expected to return in July and likely persist through August, as Canada is forecast to experience drought-like conditions and above normal temperatures.
Ottawa announced a new investment of around $100 million to enhance wildfire prevention and mitigation efforts. One fire near Squamish, BC has nearly tripled in size since it broke out Monday, but there's some good news.
We don't ever want to see unwanted fires grow near communities, but in this case it actually is a benefit to the firefighting because it has moved into ground that we can actually suppress the north end of the fire.
The RCMP believe the fire was human-caused and have launched an investigation. An evacuation alert's in place and a local state of emergency remains in place. And for more on this, I'm joined by CTV's Scott Hurst. Scott, what is the latest on the Manitoba Premier's tour?
Well, Wab Canoe got an aerial tour of some of the devastation and really got a chance to meet some of the people on the ground, whether they're helping out with the firefight or helping out with some of the evacuation efforts and helping out with the people who've been forced from their homes. There are still 25 active wildfires in that province, 9 of which are considered out of control. They've been raging for more than 2 weeks now, mainly in the north and northwestern parts of the province, forcing some 21,000 people to flee in one of the worst fire seasons in recent years, particularly for that province. And just the sheer number of evacuees is putting a strain on Manitoba's available resources, with the Premier calling on some hotel owners in the province to do more to help wildfire evacuees. And the Premier even going so far as asking tourists right now to potentially stay away to allow for more resources to be available to some of these evacuees. And because of the ongoing wildfire threat, Nathan, may not be able to go home for several days, if not several more weeks from now.
And Scott, can you bring us up to speed on the latest in other provinces?
Well, overall, this wildfire season is on pace, according to federal officials, to be the second worst on record. Approximately 3.7 million hectares of land has burned so far in Canada, with more than 3/4 of that total area burned in this country in Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and Alberta, the 3 provinces we've really been focusing on, if you add BC into that picture as well. According to federal officials, the start of the season was relatively normal, but the situation got rapidly worse over the past few weeks because of the elevated hot and dry conditions, and it's expected to remain that way for much of the summer, as you heard from the federal officials, with the greatest wildfire risk remaining in western and northern parts of this country. Specifically, an extreme fire risk is projected in southern BC in July, and also Northwest Territories and Yukon expected to face an increased risk of wildfires as well. Now, right now, the current snapshot, there are about 120 wildfires still raging out of control across this country, Nathan.
All right, CTV's Scott Hurst with the latest on the wildfires. Thank you.
Thanks, Nathan.
And as those fires continue to burn, now we're in the habit of monitoring for air quality levels as the smoke making its way here poses a threat. But fortunately, today and yesterday, it's been pretty good.
Yeah, 1 week ago, we were experiencing very poor air quality here in the city of Toronto. What a difference a week has made. In fact, today we're at our lowest risk in some time. So we're at a 2 on the air quality health index. So that's great news. We are expecting some sun this afternoon mixed with some cloud. Yes, it is a little bit chilly out there and will be through tomorrow, but the heat does return as we make our way into next week. Weather is brought to you by the Presler Law Firm Injury Lawyers. You don't pay unless they win. Yeah, not exactly a beach day today around the GTA. We had a couple of those this week, though. It was lovely to spend time by the water. Today, however, we have winds coming out of the east, and as a result, that is going to keep lakeside communities not just below seasonal, but maybe a little chilly for today. We're barely in the double digits in some areas like Burlington, for example. Likely feeling a bit of a chill along the waterfront in Durham region and the Toronto Islands too. Let's take a look at our current temperature at Pearson Airport. It is 17 degrees. Not expecting to warm up too much from here, maybe a degree or two. Barely at 20 degrees in Windsor, Ontario, 13 this hour in Muskoka. Now through the afternoon, teen temperatures pretty much right across the board. A little more warmth around London and Kitchener-Waterloo, but right around the Golden Horseshoe, we are trending cooler than normal. Average temperature this time of year is about 24 degrees. That's where we expect our high to be. Record for this day, about 34 degrees. We don't have to worry about breaking that one. So far, the provincial hotspot is Harrow at 21 degrees. Making our way into this evening, I still think it's going to be pleasant for spending some time outside. It should be dry in most parts of the GTA. Again, maybe just an increase in cloud cover happening in some areas. And then it's not quite as chilly overnight tonight as it was in some areas last night. We see fewer communities in the single digits, although 5 for the low in Bancroft. Again tonight, that is well below seasonal. Tomorrow, it's worth mentioning that we see a slight improvement with the temperature, but we are still cooler than we expect to be at this time of year. I'm happy to say, after it was looking a little dicey earlier in the week, we have some clearing that's going to happen through tomorrow, and the day should be mostly sunny. We are watching still some wet weather around the Bruce Peninsula, Peterborough over toward Kingston, and there is a little bit of cloud for the North GTA. The closer you get to Lake Ontario, you might be experiencing brighter skies. There's also a disturbance that's going to just hug the shoreline of Lake Erie. Let me show you how that looks as we make our way overnight tonight. Chance of showers for those communities. For us, though, clearing, as mentioned, through Saturday, and then Sunday is looking fabulous. Mostly sunny skies and temperatures continuing to improve. Here is the 7-day forecast. 22 degrees for Father's Day, 24 on Monday. Hot and humid through the middle part of next week, but we do have some wet weather returning as well. That's your look at the forecast. Dream of a world free from the fear of cancer. The Princess Margaret Cottage Lottery VIP prize deadline is midnight tonight. 3 lucky winners can choose 5 epic concerts plus $25,000 cash, or can take $30,000 cash. Plus, 3,500 winners can win a $100 cottage lottery ticket. Over 10,000 prizes will be awarded, valued at more than $10 million. That includes the lakefront grand prizes, a $2.8 million Halliburton lakefront cottage, plus $50,000 cash, a $2.7 million Kawartha lakefront cottage, plus $50,000 cash, and a $2.6 million Muskoka lakefront cottage, plus $50,000 cash. Don't forget to add the 50-50 jackpot with a minimum payout of $1 million. The last jackpot reached over $6 million, and there are more ways to play with the Cash Calendar and Wanderlist add-on. Get your tickets today at princessmargaretlotto.com or by calling 1-866-631-1234. Michelle, I'll send it back to you.
Thanks, Lindsay. The Ontario government is allowing Canadians to fish for free in the province this Father's Day weekend. This marks the 3rd year in a row of this offer, and if you are fishing for the weekend, regular regulations still apply. The province says recreational fishing is an important part of Ontario's economy, allowing those new to fishing to give it a try. And a reminder that Toronto beaches are already open for the season. Might be a little bit chilly, but do know the water is safe to swim. That is according to the latest update posted by the city this morning. Samples from all 10 monitored beaches show bacteria levels are well within water quality standards. The water can be deemed less safe if those readings show higher levels after changes caused by rain, wildlife, and other factors. All right. Short break. More CTV News at noon when we return. Stay with us. Well, we are heading into Father's Day weekend, a time to celebrate the dads in our lives.
It's a job that comes with many joys and challenges, especially if you live with physical disabilities and your child does too. CTV's health reporter Pauline Chan has the story.
I think I'll go with vanilla.
Zach Priest's connection with Holland Bloorview began as a toddler with cerebral palsy.
I was a client by 3. I have volunteered here. I have, as a client in many different programs here. I've worked here in many different roles. And now I'm a parent of a client here as well.
And Holland Bloorview is where Zach met Amelia's future mom during a program to help young people develop independent skills.
So Amelia and her mom have the same condition, which is osteogenesis imperfecta.
It's a painful form of fragile bone disease, which has put Amelia in hospital several times. Zach says having two parents with disabilities can be challenging.
What it really came down to was, who has more experience, dealing with growing up with a disability than two parents who have disabilities.
He admits diaper duty just wasn't his thing when Amelia was a baby, but he is every bit the guide, protector, entertainer, and more that any parent should be.
This is like a new ice cream shop to me. I just made it.
And Amelia is thriving. She even learned to read at 1.5. Holland Bloorview continues to offer support for education, finances, and rehab. This year, they're holding a special Father's Day workshop on June 19th.
It's Lego and robotics, and it's for everyone who identifies with Father's Day, so it's not gender specific.
As for Father's Day plans for Zach himself,
I think it's confidential information, but it probably involves ice cream.
Pauline Chan, CTV News.
New research from the University of Waterloo is looking into what happens in the brain when a hardcore hockey fan takes in the sport on a screen and whether it differs from a casual viewer.
CTV's Heather Centerin has more on the study that combines a unique brain imaging device and the good old hockey game.
Researchers at the University of Waterloo are testing brain activity in diehard hockey fans compared to casual viewers. If what he's watching doesn't look familiar, that's because the game used in the study was the first period in a European Hockey League game from 7 years ago.
We didn't want to show a Leafs playoff game or anything like that because, presumably even the more casual fans might be already have preconceived notions.
The study was done using this non-invasive headband-like device.
A functional near-infrared spectroscopy headband.
So based off of these different channels in the headband, we can see, as people are, say, watching a sport game, how blood flow is changing in different parts of the brain.
More blood flow usually means more excitement, even if in the game used, there wasn't as much action as you'd think.
There was actually no scoring. And we carefully, intentionally chose that game because presumably that key moment would have been the same for both.
But turns out it wasn't scoring opportunities that got participants' blood flowing. Researchers found hockey fanatics had more brain activity, specifically during offensive face-offs, compared to those who weren't committed hockey fans.
They see something in the works, in motion, and they have this greater understanding of how that might be unfolding.
Earlier this week, fans took in Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Finals in Uptown Waterloo. But who's to say whose brain was firing off more than others? As for the team at the Spectator Experience and Technology Lab in the Department of Leisure Studies, this was their first study, but it won't be their last.
So we want to see how does it look in basketball? What are the key moments? What are the moments of activity and engagement that viewers might have in those different types of sports?
Learning what keeps fans truly hooked and mentally locked in on a sport they love. Heather Centerin, CTV News, Waterloo.
Kendrick Lamar will take the stage at Rogers Center for a second night tonight.
They not like us. They not like us. They not.
Lamar's performing 2 shows in the city as part of his grand national tour with SZA. The first was held last night. The highly publicized feud between the 2 rappers has resulted in a legal battle between Drake and the U.S. record label that represents both men. Drake is suing Universal Music Group for defamation for publishing and promoting Lamar's hit, Not Like Us.
It's part of the hip-hop game, Artists decide that they have to prove who's better through music, but this one got really personal. Kendrick said things about Drake. Drake said things about Kendrick. It got really, really ugly.
Drake's lawsuit, which does not name Kendrick Lamar, claims the promotion of the diss track inspired several violent incidents at his Bridle Path home. On May 7th of last year, someone fired at Drake's mansion, hitting and critically injuring a security guard. The next day, a man tried to dig a hole under the security fence and yelled threats at Drake before being escorted off the property.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
New figures released this morning show manufacturing sales fell 2.8% nationwide in April, the largest monthly drop since October 2023. Stats Canada says manufacturing sales are now at their lowest level since January 2022. Sales of oil and coal products were down nearly 11%, and sales of vehicles fell 8.3%. While the trade war kicked off in March, April marks the first full month of tariffs from the U.S. in many sectors. Roughly half of manufacturers say they're being affected by the tariffs in some form in April.
Many people have embraced rideshare apps, and the Canadian rideshare market is expected to grow to more than 10 million users over the next 5 years.
Uber and Lyft are the two main apps used across Canada, but here in Toronto, you now have two other options to choose from. CTV's Pat Foran has this consumer alert.
Uber was the original ride-sharing service and remains the world's largest, operating in 70 countries. Lyft is in second place. Both companies are American, but now in Toronto there are two new options. Hop by Bolt from Europe is now available here.
We have recently launched Hop here in Canada, specifically within the Greater Toronto area.
The company operates in 50 countries worldwide and hopes to give customers another choice when they need to hail a ride.
We're really excited to bring our ride-sharing services to the GTA to serve new riders, new drivers, and promote competition within this marketplace.
Another new entry into the GTA ride-sharing space is Hover. It's a Canadian, Toronto-based business.
It's been an incredible response from both the driver and the rider community.
Hover is a membership-based ride-share service where drivers pay a monthly fee and then keep 100% of the fare. The company says it's looking forward to growing its service.
The more, licensed, insured platforms that are in the space doing it properly, the better the outcome will be for both the riders and the drivers.
With so many ride-sharing apps, does it really matter which one you pick? We wanted to see how much it would cost to go from the Scarborough Town Centre to Union Station at 1 o'clock on a weekday afternoon. In this example, all the drivers would arrive within 1 to 2 minutes, and Uber, Hop, and Hover were all about the same price at just over $35. Lyft was about $3 cheaper. Prices could differ in other examples depending on demand, traffic conditions, and other factors.
The four apps are all different in how they engage their riders and then pay their drivers.
A group that represents rideshare drivers says competition in the rideshare space is good for everyone.
Because the more options you have, the less we're all going to be subject to the duopoly that was Uber and Lyft.
Both Hop and Hover say they hope to expand their services across Canada in the future. Pat Foran, CTV News.
One man is proving it's never too late to graduate. A University of Guelph student started pursuing his degree back in 1976.
And nearly half a century later, he crosses the stage. CTV's Spencer Turcott tells us about why it took this long and the hurdles he had to clear along the way.
Dave Burnett.
Sure, when Dave Burnett first stepped foot on campus in 1976, he envisioned crossing the stage and graduating. He just didn't think it would take him 49 years.
It was the 70s. We are the generation of rebellion. And so after about a year and a half, I dropped out.
But he had good reason for it. The next 20 years sent him down a rabbit hole of addiction.
I didn't know what day of the week it was.
Then recovery, eventually convincing the university to let him back.
I would go to a 12-step meeting in the morning, come to classes, back again, and then studying at night.
Then more twists and turns. Marriage and kids came, and Dave was offered a full-time job.
So you're left with student loans and a paycheck. I opted for the paycheck with the understanding I would get back sometime.
During that time came a divorce, then a remarriage, a bout of skin cancer, a stroke, then, just 2 years ago, a Parkinson's diagnosis. A long list that would deter most people from revisiting school. Not Dave. It became a bucket list item to get his Bachelor of Science in Agriculture.
When I reached 65, the university has a policy of waiving the tuition.
So Dave returned, inspiring classmates along the way, even the dean.
It's a great example of perseverance and grit and having the tenacity to chisel away at something, in this case, one course at a time.
A rarity, too.
The first time we've had someone of his vintage graduating with us.
It's something the now 68-year-old is still coming to terms with.
It is emotional. It's just been in the last couple days that it sort of began to sink in.
Nearly half a century of education reaching its apex.
So to suddenly sort of realize today, getting gowned up, I'm done.
So, while he may not have another semester in the tank,
I'm too old to get my master's.
He's proven that he is a master at showing learning has no limits, a legacy he hopes to leave behind long after he leaves campus. Spencer Turcotte, CTV News, Guelph.
Oh, congratulations, David. Yeah, that is an amazing lesson for all, especially kids watching.
Yeah, it's never too late to pursue whatever it is you want to pursue.
Indeed. I want to bring you some other good news for tonight. Sunset time tonight, 9 p.m. So we can all look forward to that. The day is getting longer, and 1 week from today is the summer solstice, the longest day of the year. Let's take you through what you need to know. Waking up tomorrow morning, we will have a mix of sun and cloud. Temperatures a little cool for this time of year. Once again, we are below seasonal, but should be an improvement from today. There's your weekend forecast. It's looking pretty bright. Maybe some cloud to start on Saturday, but then clearing out after that. A reminder that we're going to heat up next week with some wet weather in there too. Nathan and Michelle.
All right. Thank you, Lindsay. And that is CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and all of us here at CTV News, have a pleasant afternoon. I'm Michelle today.
And I'm Nathan Downer. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6. Have a great afternoon.